you'd almost prefer the snow, right? Well, speaking of the snow, let's take a look at some of our top numbers that we've seen in the past 24 hours. Wisconsin leading the way with quite a bit of this, 10.5 inches across portions of northern Wisconsin, 8.5 inches there in Ironwood, Michigan. So we're adding up to these totals that are already above average for a lot of these places. Snow still to come. We could see feet across portions of the UP of Michigan. Now in Marquette, now get this. So here's Marquette in the UP. Since July 1st, we've had nearly 20 feet of snow. So since last summer through the entire season, that's about 3.5 feet above average. And we're going to add even more to that. So when you think of these places as being snowy places anyways, you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. But when you're talking about 3.5 feet of snow above average on the snowing season, that's a big deal. We've got winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up. Heavy, wet snow coming down. This could lead to some power outages because it's not just the snow. It's going to add up in a big way, but also those winds. We've got a nice little system. You see it here in the water vapor. We've got our circulation spinning around, kind of acting like, I always think those look like a bowling ball, just kind of swinging in and bringing you this nasty weather. And you can see the radar truth of that circulation around that low pressure. Look at some of these observations that we've got right now. 42 degrees in Chicago, rainy, but the winds are gusting around 32 miles an hour. That tells me it feels like it's in the mid-30s. It's miserable out there. Rhinelander, you've got those winds gusting upwards of 30 miles an hour as well. And that is another part of this system. I think anytime you're getting kind of nasty weather that you don't want, when you throw the wind in, it immediately exacerbates it. Look at some of these gusts we're going to see in Marquette, 40, 50 mile per hour gusts. Certainly power outages are possible. Detroit, 25, 30 mile per hour wind gusts as well. That's sticking around through Tuesday into Wednesday before the system finally begins to clear out. So those winds are going to be hanging around for a bit of time. Now, my good news for you here in Detroit is that it's going to be windy and rainy and snowy and cold at times. The snow's really not expected to make any sort of serious accumulation, but here's my bright light at the end of the tunnel for you in Detroit. By this weekend, your temperatures are going to be in the mid-60s and you'll have more sunshine. So Alex, you just got to keep your sights on the weekend there in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward. High, maybe not as high as what was forecast, but high enough that it could be a danger out there.
So many different elements going into river forecasting that it's better to be prepared and better be safe than sorry. We have those flood watches up, especially across the higher terrain where you've got that water coming down from the higher elevations into some of the canyons. So you see the flood watches up across portions of Nevada.
Yeah, that snowmelt is one of the big issues that we're going to be facing. Now, we are going to be bringing in some precipitation over the coming days. In fact, over the next 7 we do have some wet weather from the Pacific Northwest, Southern California, parts of the interior as well. There'll be some snow also getting a chance to add up. How about maybe a foot plus in a few spots?
Right. The Sierra packing in more of that snow. That's what we're going to get. And it's going to add up in a big way. We're seeing this again, this round of weather like we had to kick off the year. It's continuing. So you're getting the snow in the higher elevations and the rain in the lower elevations, not to mention the wind and the cold. It's just such a not fun pattern.
You tend to think that things would be shutting down in the West during this time of the year, getting into the month of May now, certainly out of the rainy season. But yeah, we got another system that we're going to be watching. You see that coming down the West Coast, bringing in some of that rain, snow adding up as well. And you can see by the time we get to Wednesday, I'd say rush hour time, some of that rain trying to sneak down towards Southern California.
Yeah, you're going to have that rain sticking around. Those below average temperatures, guys, along with those cloudy conditions. It's just not going to be, it's not going to be feeling very May-like for your first week of May. Let's take a look at what you can expect temperature-wise up and down the coast. Highs 10 to 20 degrees below average, but then you head a little bit farther inland and you're looking at the complete flip of the switch. You're talking about temperatures well above average and steamy.
Yeah, how about some 90s out there to contend with? Phoenix, that's the spot as we get into that Friday. 96 degrees expected for your afternoon. And we have to start thinking about now as we get to this time of the year, those cars that can heat up very, very rapidly, right? Even in a spot like Billings, Montana, expecting to see a high in the mid-70s for the day. But after 10 minutes in that car, 93 is what it's going to be like. And after a half an hour, 108 degrees. So getting dangerously hot, making sure you're checking that back seat for the kids and the pets in the car.
I almost think it's even more dangerous when it's, say, 79 degrees versus 96, because you might not think about it as much. Phoenix, you can see your weather roller coaster here going from 96 today to the upper 70s by Thursday. So you'll get a break from that heat.
A little break.
Hurricane Supply kits. It's National Hurricane Preparedness Week, with the season officially kicking off just 1 month from now. Can you believe it's that time?
It doesn't feel like it, especially when you walk outside. We're talking about snow in parts of the country, and it's cold in the southeast. Hard to imagine hurricane season is just around the corner.
Yeah. Well, this is the time to get prepared, because it's going to be knocking on our door before, and especially across portions of Florida where, one, they're still recovering from Ian, and then two, we've had such a busy dry season. It's like this is supposed to be the calm time.
Supposed to, and the weather situations over the last couple of years, it's not matching up.
Yeah.
Things aren't matching up.
We've had a lot of extreme weather, but not just in the Sunshine State. We've had a lot of snow in other places, and it's still not done.
Yeah, it is not done. That's what's, again, going back to, it's not supposed to be doing this, right? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. It's not unheard of, but it's a little much.
Can we pump the brakes, please?
It's May.
Yeah,
let's get rid of this snow. Goodbye.
Yeah, let's do that.
Agreed.
Well, I'll show you where it's happening. And
better. We're not talking about feet of snow, a little bit of snow possible, but not those feet of snow. But I would say, I don't know if I would call this better when you're talking about 52 degrees in New York, winds gusting up around 18 miles an hour, Philly 55, and those gusts at 26. It is brisk out there. That wind is going to make it feel chillier. You've got some rain kind of rotating through. This is one of those days where it's not like you have a clean line that moves through and you're like, okay, we're done. You've got that circulation around that trough that's just feeding in this moisture. You're going to have rounds of showers, and as mentioned, you're going to see a little bit of snow, especially in the higher elevations where you get some of that cold air to mix in. It's just a drizzly, showery, cloudy, cold, windy day. I would call it a stay inside day if you have that option. So here's what it looks like. You can see the winds continuing to be a bit gusty before they calm down a little bit as we head into the evening. Now, overnight tonight, that rain continues to move through, and then we start to see the winds, especially as you look a little bit farther westward for places like Pittsburgh and Erie, 20-25 mile per hour gusts, the snow blowing through as well. It is anything but May-like across the Northeast, because it's not just the rain that we're getting, but also those below average temperatures, also that wind that's making it a lot of not fun as we head through the next several days. We've got more on all of this coming up, so stick around. This region could have some delays, could be a bit bumpy, but all the miles in the world won't save you from the headaches that could come with summer travel this year.
That's right. Joining us now is Becky Blaine, newsletter editor at The Points Guy. We've got to know, where is everyone going?
So always popular is going to be London and
prepare for pricing. Does it look like the airfare prices might be going up? Should that be an integral part of our planning?
Absolutely.
We really get on it pretty early, right? Well, it is key, no doubt about it, to make sure you're tracking these prices, because they can fluctuate a bit. Now, what about travel delays? Are we seeing more of that taking place across the nation, and for that matter, just travel around the world?
I mean, we are expecting a potential sold-out summer.
We're all in for the tips, but we also want to know about the deals out there right now and the way people can use their points towards summer travel, because that can make a big difference. If the airfare is covered and you get a good deal, you could do a lot more things.
It sure can.
Becky, here on the show, we ask our viewers a question of the day, and we couldn't pass up the opportunity to ask someone travel savvy the question. So we're asking you, where's the farthest that you've flown, or maybe would like to fly for some perfect vacation weather?
Like summer weather at the North Pole, but we'll take your recommendation for it.
That sounds awesome. That's awesome. Becky, thanks so much. We absolutely appreciate you. Becky Blaine, newsletter editor at The Points Guy. Thanks again for joining us. Some great tips for getting out this summer, right? People getting more and more folks. We've seen it since, the things are getting a little bit back to more normal.
Right.
More folks getting out there and trying to travel and see the world.
And one thing that I've learned too is sometimes there will be airports kind of close to each other, and maybe you can fly into a cheaper airport and then take public transportation. On this day, we got Cheerios for the first time ever, and then a few years later, Honey Nut Cheerios. So the weather today is definitely a little bit on the cool side, but look at the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's going to warm back up, and it's going to be much nicer after this little chilly. Now I'm very hungry, and I want some Cheerios. I know. Honey Nut specifically.
Good stuff, good stuff. Who would have thought you would have learned all
water.
Yeah, it can always be worse. Right?
Always be worse.
Ooh. Well, thanks for choosing America's Morning Headquarters here to get you through the mid-morning hours.
That's right. The Weather Channel helping you plan for the big events ahead. Guys, it's the first day of May.
So I'm told.
It's the best month of the year, so you're told.
Yes, but the weather is not the best of the year.
No, the weather is feeling more like what, fall?
Yeah, or early, early spring, February, early March. I mean, it's been snowing in the upper Midwest. Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, so with that, we're going to help you plan your summer vacation, because what I just learned is you should be planning like right now.
You might be too late.
Yeah. If you want to get out there for the summer.
Exactly.
Don't you worry. We'll get you there, though. We'll get you out of this soggy pattern that we're dealing with, because that's today's big deal. Flooding voice, where you are going to be stuck with that snow, and where you've been stuck with quite a bit of that snow. Some of the snowfall that we've seen in the past 24 hours, Three Lakes, Michigan leading the way here at 11.1 inches. Ironwood, Michigan, 8.5. Phelps, Wisconsin, 8 inches. So you can see where this has been adding up. And this is falling across a region where many of these cities are already above average. Now, let's just wrap our brains around this together, because when I was looking this up, I was like, I wonder how much snow Marquette has gotten. So obviously the UP of Michigan can get snow along a good part of the year. So since July 1st, we've had about 20 feet of snow in Marquette. Now that's about 3.5 feet above average, and we're going to add even more to that across portions of the UP. So we're going to keep upping those numbers to well above average. We do have those winter alerts in place, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, where we have the winter storm warning, the Keweenaw Peninsula included in that. We're talking about heavy, wet snow, windy conditions that could lead to some power outages as well. Here's our system. You can see that characteristic counterclockwise circulation around that low pressure system. And here are some of our latest observations. I'm laughing because it looks miserable. You see the circulation around here pulling that cold air down, bringing us the snow. It's gusting up to 38 miles an hour in Rhinelander. Chicago, cloudy, drizzly, 42 with wind gusts at 29. That means it's feeling like it's the mid-30s. It is nasty out there. The wind's going to continue, and that's why, especially for places like Marquette, where you're having these 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts, you could have definitely travel troubles, some visibility reduced, and power outages are a possibility. The wind gusts continuing as we head through Tuesday. For a city like, say, Detroit, you're going to have some rain overnight tonight into Tuesday. You're going to have a little bit of that snowy mix. Really quickly showing you that. But the good news for Detroit, Alex, is they just have to keep their eye on the weekend, because it will be in the mid-60s and mostly sunny by the weekend. You just got to get through this first.
Yeah, it's always a little easier when you know.
Call this catch me inside weather, because I don't want to be out in this, especially during May. Like, come on, guys. But what is it that they say? Misery loves company. So there's millions of us that are dealing with these temperatures that are way colder than they should be. 195 million today, people with those temperatures below average. And that continues tomorrow and into Wednesday, kind of splitting the country into here with those below average temperatures along the west coast and in the east as well. Here's what's going on. We've got that dip in the jet stream that's allowing that cold air to plunge south and east and bring us those below average temperatures. Today, the forecast highs around the Great Lakes region in the 40s. Now, this is about 15 to 20 degrees below average for places like Cleveland. We should be in the 60s. Instead, we've got this windy, drizzly, cloudy, cold weather that's hanging out. Now, let's talk about what we could see in terms of records today. The forecast in Dayton, Ohio, is 43 degrees. Now, if we just stay below 50 at all, say 49 degrees even, that is going to set a new record cold high. And what that means is that through history, since records were being kept, the coldest that it's ever stayed in Dayton, Ohio on May 1st was 50 degrees in 1994, and we could smash that record today. Now, those highs that are well below average around the Ohio region really just kind of bleeding eastward as we head through tomorrow, but still much of Ohio, the Ohio River Valley, stuck in those below average temperatures. Pittsburgh, hey guys, how's it going? How's your Tuesday? Well, if you're planning for a nice May-like Tuesday, it will not be that at all. 43 is your high in Pittsburgh tomorrow. You should be in the upper 60s. So this is not what we're wanting, Dr. Postel, but also on the other side of that, the storms. We don't want that either.
Yeah, the cold
And Mayflowers, including super blooms like this, that may leave you wanting to plant
implications of the faucet turning on and not turning off out west, whether we're talking about the snow faucet or the rain faucet. It's created so many different issues.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's the good that we brought on this and we need it, but the flip side is what you see there.
Flood
Rocks
alerts
coming down,
and the problems.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. All right, so here we are checking on what's going on here in parts of the west. You can see the green areas. That's where we actually have flood watches. Some of these going through Friday, and a lot of this has to do with snow melt. Yeah, the snow has to go somewhere at some point, and at this time of the year it starts melting and starts to fill up the streams, the rivers, and the creeks. And so that is a risk that we do face. Watch for some of these areas to flood a bit here over the next several days.
Yeah, we're sticking with a messy pattern, though. We've got another round of rain and showery weather and snow in the higher elevations moving in. So we're continuing to add to this. You know, it's like we wanted some precipitation. We wanted some of the snow melt and the snowpack, but at some point it's getting to be excessive.
Yeah, here we are adding up a little bit more, going through essentially the next week or so, 7 days worth of snow. Yeah, we've got it adding up. I mean, maybe some of these areas here, some of the highest peaks around Mammoth Lakes, foot to a foot and a half. I mean, some of these ski areas here, we may be open all year at this point.
Pretty much. Some of them are already open through July.
Yes.
So like you said, all year is certainly possible. What's going to happen is we've got that funnel of moisture, that kind of Pacific moisture just coming into the coast. Lower levels, you're getting the rain. Higher elevations, you're getting some of the snow. You can see that circulation there hanging out off the coast. It's also bringing some windy conditions as well. So it's just going to be blustery.
Yeah, that's the word, right? Blustery and just kind of gray at times with these showers and some of the snow. And then we see another little system coming in. Looks like by the end of the week, that may try to sneak its way into the Pacific Northwest. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. But in the meantime, Felicia, how about the coastal areas on the cooler side?
Yeah, you're talking about 10 to 20 degrees below average with the drizzle, with the clouds, with the rain. This is not what you want for May in Southern California. But on the flip side of that, you also don't want the temperatures 10 to 20 degrees above average, like, say, in Phoenix.
Yeah, because that will put you up into the mid-90s. And that's what you'll see as we end off the week. 90s across parts of Arizona. We really have to watch out for that and start focusing now on these cars, which can heat up very rapidly here in full sun. This is what can happen in a spot like Phoenix. That 96 degrees after 10 minutes, it's going to be 115 in the vehicle and then 130 degrees after a half an hour. So it can happen like that.
Yeah.
Check that back seat for the kids and the pets. Well, May kicks off.
In supply kits. The time of the year, guys, it's National Hurricane Preparedness Week, with the season officially kicking off just 1 month from now.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on with the hurricane season and the forecast. You know, tomorrow we're going to be talking a lot more in detail about what went on behind the scenes to make the forecast that we have. And there are flies in the ointment to let you know that just because maybe the hurricane season isn't expected to be as active as it's been recently, well, it doesn't. First of all, it takes one only.
Right.
And second of all, there are other factors there that we have to account for that are not so predictable at this early vantage point. So there's a lot going on there. It still could be a very active season.
Definitely very active, possibly, for hurricane season. And it's been a very active winter. Winter spring for the Great Lakes region.
It's like we just create a whole new season here.
Right.
Why don't we? Let's talk about.
We're going to call it winger. That's spring and winter.
Oh, you're just having a great day with words.
Well, I don't know. I guess it all depends on your outlook, right? The day is what you make it. So if you think happy May-like thoughts, maybe you can convince yourself that 48 with wind gusts at 25 and drizzle moving through is what it should be for May, even though we know that's not true. This is the worst kind of rain because it's just these scattered showers that are getting funneled through. It's gusty, it's cold, it's drizzly, and those rounds of showers and snow, they're going to linger around as we're stuck in kind of this troughiness, this setup that's across the Great Lakes region, eventually into the northeast. Some of that snow coming down, especially across the higher elevations. Give yourself a little extra time. The wind is going to be blowing too, so it could be kind of difficult for those high-profile vehicles, especially on those mountain roads. So keep that in mind as you're planning the rest of your week. That snow filling in from the west to the east throughout Tuesday, with the winds continuing to be gusty, that rain continuing to hang around. It's just not going to be a pretty time across the northeast with this pattern, and it's lasting for days, guys. It's not just today, but it's sticking around as we head into the end of the week as well. Rain still to come, around an inch, but certainly some higher amounts possible, and that cooler air that's sticking around as well. This region could have some delays, could be a bit bumpy. But all the miles in the world won't save you from the headaches that could come